Hi guys, Yusef here, and welcome to Movie Thoughts, the show where we talk about movies. Today, we're going to be talking about Lost World Jurassic Park, the sequel to the original Jurassic Park. Released in 1997, Lost World Jurassic Park stars Jeff Goldblum, Julianne Moore, and Vince Vaughn. The story follows Ian Malcolm as he goes to Site B, Jurassic Park's second island, this time to save his girlfriend Sarah Harding from all of the rampaging dinosaurs that inhabit the island. The Lost World Jurassic Park is actually my favorite Jurassic sequel. I did like how this story was a bit darker, it was a bit more adult, and the story, not only that, but the acting was also very well done. There are a couple of scenes where the acting is a little bit phoned in on certain characters, and there are certain, don't get me wrong, there are a couple of plot holes, a couple of inconsistencies, but otherwise this movie is quite enjoyable, if a little bit too dark at some points. I mean, right off the bat, you know this movie's going to be dark when right off the bat they implied the little girl may have been killed by a dinosaur. Like, not even 10 minutes in. And I'm like, that's a very big change from the original Jurassic Park. And of course, I was really happy to see Jeff Goldblum return as Ian Malcolm. He was by far the best character in the original Jurassic Park, and he is still the best character in Lost World Jurassic Park. I didn't even know if it was possible, but they actually made Ian more cynical in this movie, a little bit more world-weary, and a lot of it has to do because of his experiences in Jurassic Park. But something that never really went away in his character is his biting wit and his sarcasm. For example, once they get to Site B, they're all screaming for Sarah. They're all like, "Sarah, Sarah," and Vince Vaughn's character just says, "Sarah Harding," and Ian is like, how many Sarahs do you think there are on the island? And not only that, there are certain supporting characters, such as Eddie Carr, that they're just as sassy as he is, and I think that's hilarious. Another scene is when he's trying to reach somebody on the satellite phone. He's like, and he smacks the phone, and Eddie's like, "Technology and violence, never good bet, fellows." Which I thought was really funny because he just got so annoyed with Ian at that point, and it was really funny. That's one of the things I really like about this movie. The chemistry between the characters was, I feel, a little bit stronger than it was in Jurassic Park. Mostly because some of these characters already kind of knew each other, so you kind of got a pre-built chemistry around them. Another great thing I really liked about this movie was the way that it was set up in terms of these two groups going to the island for two different reasons. Like, you have Ian's group, which are called the Gatherers, and they're really just there to document these dinosaurs, gather information, and actually prove to the world that these dinosaurs deserve to live. And then you have the Hunters, which is run by InGen, the company that created Jurassic Park, and they're just there to hunt. They're just there to grab these dinosaurs, get them out of the island, and bring them back to the mainland in order to build a second Jurassic Park. And there's a really interesting dichotomy between these two groups, especially at first when they have no contact with each other, because you see these characters, specifically Sarah, when she's like, we have to be antiseptic, we're here to document, we have to be extremely careful with what we leave behind, we can't leave anything behind. And then you have the Hunters just coming in on all these military style vehicles, and they're just knocking dinosaurs out, just caging them, and it's kind of heartbreaking, specifically the stampede that they caused, where they just chase after dinosaurs, and especially right at the end when they take down a Pachycephalosaurus and they just pull on it and he kind of falls. That was really heartbreaking, and and that actually feeds into my next point, which is the effects in this movie. I mean, when they were making this movie, the tagline was bigger, better, more. And this definitely delivers. This movie definitely delivers on that promise. You have a lot more dinosaurs. You have more dinosaur action. Just like that stampede scene, you have all these dinosaurs running while you have these cars and these guys on motorcycles kind of whizzing through all these dinosaurs between the dinosaurs' legs. And it was really well done. You also have these scenes very reminiscent of the first Jurassic Park, but still a little bit darker. For example, when you have the scene where all the adults are in the trailer, and they are trying to heal the baby T-Rex, and it's raining again. It's all at night, and they're gonna be attacked by the Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is the two of them, because now there's two of them. Holy crap! Even more. I love it. And it was very reminiscent, but at the same time, it had an extra hint of danger. Not just because there was two T-Rexes, just because Ian already kind of knows what might happen, and as the audience, you already know what else is going to happen as well. And that, for me, I think gave it an extra sense of danger. Now, on that scene as well, there was some issues there, and for a while I didn't know what it was until I just rewatched it, and it's because there's a weird sense of spatial awareness in that scene. For example, when these characters are in the trailer, you have these two T-Rex heads coming in front of them, like one here, and these characters are in the middle of the trailer. And the heads are coming from this direction, but then the next shot, the trailer is facing a cliff, and it's physically impossible for these dinosaurs to be floating on the same side of the cliff. And it was just really strange how that was done. But then again, this scene does also give you one of the more mean-spirited kills in the Jurassic franchise, which is still something that I'm not really a fan of, and that's Eddie's death scene. That was a scene that was really kind of unwarranted and uncalled for. I mean, you had this guy who literally, was doing his best to save Ian, Sarah, and Nick, Vince Vaughn's character. And, this poor guy stuck through everything. I mean, these two dinosaurs were attacking him, and he still got his foot on the accelerator trying to pull back the trailer after it's been pushed down by the T-Rexes. And, this dude's trying his best, and he still, gets eaten and ripped in half by these T-Rexes, and that was kind of rough. I feel like that was just too mean-spirited a kill. And that's another thing that this movie has. Sometimes it was a bit too dark, to the point where some of these kills felt uncalled for. They felt a little bit had more of a horror element to them, which at the same time I kind of appreciated as a horror fan. One of those death scenes was actually Dieter's, which I do believe he was kind of a bad guy. He kind of deserved that death. The guy that got eaten by the compies. It was a very interesting scene how he kind of falls over the tree trunk. These compies jump on top of the tree trunk and attack him, and all you hear is the sound of his screaming, his death throes, and then you see a pool of blood coming out of the waterfall, and you're like, man, that guy got fucked up. And then you also have the scene with Burke, the guy that had like a cowboy hat and like this big beard, and that, I feel like that was another mean-spirited kill. This was a character who hadn't really done anything bad in the movie, and he just gets eaten by a T-Rex. All you see is this splatter of blood everywhere, and you're like, that was a bit too much. I didn't feel the need to see that. And I'm really, something that really made me happy about this movie though was that we got to see some more raptor action. And now something that I really liked is, I do like the way the raptors in this movie looked a lot better than the ones in Jurassic Park, and I think a lot of it has to do with the coloring of their eyes, where they're a little bit greener, a little bit brighter, plus the coloring of their skin, which you have these tiger stripes with the orange and black. And I thought that was a really cool design for the raptors in this movie. I also really appreciated how this movie still gave you a sense of how intelligent the raptors were. I mean, you have the scene where Kelly, who is Ian's daughter, and Sarah hiding in this maintenance shed, and they lock the door, and these dinosaurs are just clawing at the bottom, trying to dig their way into the door, and it was really pulse-pounding and really tense. And at the same time, you have Ian dealing with just one velociraptor, where he's locked himself in a car, and his raptor is breaking through the window, doesn't care if it hurts himself, he's breaking through this window, just trying to get at him. And that was also very tense, very well executed, very well directed by Steven Spielberg. Of course, this scene, there's a bunch of little things in these movies that kind of ruin a lot of important scenes. And for me, this was, of course, gymnastics. That was so out of place. It was just so dumb. There was no reason for it to be there, other than to give Kelly something to do in the film. And I mean, it was just so out of character. It was just so out of nowhere for her to just randomly do gymnastics and just kick a raptor through a window. It's just kind of dumb, kind of, like it didn't need to be there. And then, of course, you do have the big incident in San Diego, which is when the T-Rex breaks free out of its enclosure and, you know, just wreaks havoc all over San Diego. The only thing I didn't really enjoy about that specific, it isn't even the scene, because the scene is beautifully shot. The whole sequence is amazing. It's a lot of fun to watch, but it's the getting to that scene, because you have, you know, these characters escape the island, and then right off the bat they drop you off in San Diego. Like, there's no breathing room, and it's kind of a jarring cut to just cut right to San Diego. And I was just like, what happened? Because you can tell it's been some time, because Ian has shaved, you know. It's just this big announcement now, because the dinosaurs are actually coming to the mainland. So it's been some time, and I would have liked to see a little bit more background on these characters right after they got back from the island. But other than that, I mean, like I said, the scene in San Diego was just so well done, so well executed. And once again, except for one tiny little thing, and this is such a big plot hole, and I know it's been discussed many, many times, but that is, how did the crew on the ship that brought the dinosaurs die when the T-Rex was just in its enclosure and the baby T-Rex was not in the boat at all? It was already in Jurassic Park San Diego. That's what still gets me. That's why I'm still like, how did they die if there was only one dinosaur on board and it was under an enclosure? You know, other than that though, great scene. Very reminiscent of the old Godzilla movies, especially because you have that one scene with the Asian businessman running and just doing this. Just a big callback to Godzilla, really. Another great thing about this film is the music. It's not as good as the first Jurassic Park's music, but I liked how different the music in this one was. John Williams really outdid himself making the music for this film as well. Because it had a lot of more percussion to it. It was a lot more tribal. Like, you had a lot more bongos and percussion instruments that really gave it more of an island without any enclosures type of feel to it. And it was a great job. I'm really happy with the soundtrack for this film. It's one of my favorite film soundtracks, actually. Now, onto the criticisms. There are some very underdeveloped characters, and there's also this annoying habit in the film of certain characters speaking to each other while other people are speaking as well, and kind of speaking over each other. But on the first characters, you have this character like Malcolm's nephew. Can't remember his name, but he's kind of this dickish character. All he really cares about is money. He's just a greedy guy, and that's all his character is. There's no other development done to his character. And then you also have a lot of the hunters, kind of one-dimensional characters, which at the same time I feel like they're supposed to be, because they're supposed to be kind of expendable. But you have Roland Tembo, who at first he was very underdeveloped. He was very one-dimensional. He was just there to kill the T-Rex. That's all he wanted to do. But as the movie progressed, I did like his character arc. I did like how he eventually, you know, turned his back on Inge, and he's like, I'm not going to be in the company of death. And I thought that was very interesting. Now, once again, going back to what I said earlier, it happens like 2 or 3 times when these characters happens in John Hammond's home while Ian is talking to to Hammond's nephew, and at the same time he's like signing paperwork, and the guy who's giving him the paperwork is like, just sign here, while they're talking, and it's just very annoying because you're trying to figure out what these two characters are talking about, and all of a sudden you just hear this guy just going, sign here, please sign here, and over here. And I was like, why is that there? And then you also have it once they're at the campgrounds in Isla Sorna. You know, you have Sarah telling about the regulations that she wants to uphold, you know, in terms of like keeping things clean, keeping things antibacterial while they're on the island. And Ian is just talking over her like, hey, you want me to send anything to your loved ones, any letters, any personal effects? And it's just very jarring because it's very hard to tell who to pay attention to and what to pay attention to. And it was just kind of grating. But other than that, this movie has, you know, it's a very solid movie. It's not amazing. By all means, it's not a perfect movie. Like I said, it's a bit too dark. It's a bit, it has a couple of underdeveloped characters, a couple of mean kills that are just kind of there to up the body count and aren't really. I just felt like the movie could have done a little bit better without them. And then you also have some issues with the pacing and some plot holes and inconsistencies. Based on that, I would have to give Lost World Jurassic Park a B+. Guys, I want to thank you so much for watching this video of movie thoughts. Like I said, if there's anything that you'd like me to cover on the show, please drop it in the comments below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and click right here to become a part of the Cyborg Army today.